I am Sharon Smith, and I call myself the Metal Apprentice here at BookForge, mostly because I am a metalsmith professionally, and I have multiple studio art degrees in it. Along with metalsmithing, I am a jewelry artist, mixed media artist, and I do sculpture too. Let's see, I'm from Erie, lived in Portland for a while, which was awesome, and am now back in Erie. And I have a really awesome dog. Her name is Raven.
Nice.
Oh, my artistic style would be a combination. Well, first of all, it depends on the media. With metalworking, my primary one, if it's a strictly functional piece, it's mostly based on a shape or form or a little squiggly line that I like to doodle. And, it's purely about both the aesthetics and the function, because if it's functional art, it has to actually function. With my big pieces, as I call them, conceptual ones, my artistic style, I would visually describe a lot of it as based on, kind of inspired by Art Nouveau, arts and crafts, Celtic art, and Victorian mourning jewelry. And, for the metalwork, for more 2D stuff, very influenced by German Expressionism and the Surrealists, and conceptually, and also stylistically, arts and crafts would be a big one, because of their view on functional objects being also objects of art. Usually something pisses me off, or not exactly. Either it makes me angry, or upsets me, or that something I'm dealing with, or something I find really deeply ironic and weird. And then I kind of want to make a commentary, social commentary, political commentary with it. And so I kind of work out how I do that in an object. My MFA show was all satirical political trophies for politicians who irritated me. With the functional objects, it's more about design. And I just kind of, I'll doodle something that's a form, or, see like a really interesting tree, and kind of get ideas from that. One piece I'm working on right now is a pair of candlesticks that were inspired by a bush at my cousin's wedding that had some really interesting twisting branches to it, and the idea is that they'll kind of twist together so they form a pair that's actually connected, but are two separate pieces. So.
Okay. How does that lead into your workflow? So you have the inspiration of the bushes, they got the idea for the candles, but how does that translate into an actual physical workflow?
With my physical workflow, I will kind of sketch it out on paper, kind of get different ideas of how I want the curves and the forms to go, and then I will make a mock-up with some heavy gauge aluminum wire so that I can see how it's going to actually fit together in 3 dimensions. And then I'll decide whether I want to forge it or cast it, and then either I'll forge it myself, or casting something that scale I would have to ship out to somebody else. So, is there a particular message or theme I try and convey in my art? Well, again, it kind of depends on what I'm working on. With my conceptual pieces, there's usually a definite idea, usually political or sometimes emotional, that I'm trying to discuss with either a definite satirical edge to it, or a ironic twist, or some really dark humor, or in some cases a sense of whimsy. So okay. I like to have humor of some sort.
Okay.
My workspace less influences my art than my art and my mental state influence my workspace. Usually it's assign, total chaos because that's the way my brain works. But I have separate areas for metalwork and then what I call my clean room for doing like drawing and printmaking and collage work. And one thing I like to do is, when I finish a project, it's just insane. So what I'll do is I will completely clean up the space to kind of reset everything in my brain. Kind of like a new beginning. It's like this piece is done, start the new one completely fresh. My proudest artistic accomplishment would be getting my Master of Fine Arts, which I got at the University of North Dakota, which I had an awesome professor, but I don't recommend North Dakota as a state. It's just this vast frozen flatness. But I have a second accomplishment that I think is really cool. I got to meet Peter Cooper, who's a printmaker and illustrator, and he does the Spy vs. Spy cartoons in Mad Magazine. And he also is one of the people involved with a magazine called World War III Illustrated. It's very political, a lot of satire. And he told me some of my concepts would fit in with that magazine, which was just awesome.
Very cool.
My biggest challenge as an artist is the biggest challenge in my life. I have a disability known as idiopathic hypersomnia. It's related to narcolepsy, but kind of in reverse, in that instead of randomly falling asleep, I randomly cannot wake up. I can have 5 alarm clocks blasting, at top volume, waking up my housemates that I just simply don't hear. I have a device that gives me an electric shock, and that doesn't always work. So that's my biggest one, because I don't know if I'm necessarily going to wake up every day, because I've slept, I think, for the longest 28 hours straight. Beyond that, I was diagnosed with ADHD a few years ago, which means since it was recent, I've had a lifetime to develop either bad coping mechanisms or no coping mechanisms, and it's just gotten worse over time. So that's there's issues with that, with executive dysfunction and choice paralysis and things like that. And I'm also bipolar, which makes, for entertainment with trying to deal with a crazy brain. If I could collaborate with any artist, with living or dead, with the dead artists, it would be Kathy Kolowitz or Nancy Shapiro. Kathy Kolowitz did amazing print work in stone lithography. The woman could capture so much human emotion in her printmaking. Just gorgeous, even, in terms of, someone being in pain. She was a German expressionist. Nancy Shapiro was a feminist artist who did a lot of mixed media work that it's really fascinating stuff. She did a big piece called The Torture of Women that was talking about the situation of women worldwide and the issues they face. Living artists, there are a number of famous and not as famous. Oh, also with the dead artists, there would be pretty much anyone in the arts and crafts movement or the pre-Raphaelites. Would just be amazing. William Morris had an amazing brain, and I think with the pre-Raphaelites, the women actually were really active in creating and don't get enough credits, but I would really, I've seen some of their work and it's pretty fascinating. Also, Alphonse Mucha and Lalique, who did Art Nouveau jewelry that was incredible, technique-wise, just amazing, and aesthetically. I could learn so much from them.